The wind howled across the empty prairie, carrying with it the scent of dust, dry grass, and loneliness. I sat by the small fire I had built outside my cabin, staring into the flames that seemed to burn away at the silence of my life. Out here, miles from the nearest town, the nights were long, and the days, though filled with work, were hollow. A man could break his back plowing fields, tending cattle, fixing fences, but when the sun dipped low and the world turned quiet, the ache of being alone was heavier than any chore. That night, as the fire popped and cracked, I heard something strange: footsteps. At first faint, like a trick of my weary mind. Then clearer, urgent. I stood up, hand resting on the worn grip of my Colt. Out here, visitors rarely came unannounced, and trouble often wore a stranger's boots. Through the shadows, a figure emerged. A woman. Her dress was torn at the hem, her hair wild from the wind, her eyes carrying both fear and determination. She stopped a few steps from the firelight, clutching her shawl tight around her shoulders. "Please." Her voice trembled, yet carried a strength born of desperation. "Please take me. I can cook, I can bear you children too." She lowered her gaze, her voice softening into a whisper. "I just need a place where I belong." Her words struck me harder than any blow. I wasn't prepared for this. A cowboy lives with hardship, with danger, with lonesome nights, but not with a plea like that. Not from a woman who looked like she had run from the edge of despair itself. I gestured for her to come closer to the fire. "Sit," I said gently. My voice carried the roughness of someone unused to company. "Tell me what's brought you here." She hesitated, then lowered herself to the ground, her thin hands stretching toward the warmth of the flames. For a long moment, she didn't speak. Only when the fire lit her face did I see the weariness etched into her features, and yet beneath it, a quiet dignity. "My name is Clara," she finally said. "I left the settlement 2 days ago. The man I was bound to marry, he wasn't kind. He wanted land, not love. I knew if I stayed, I'd be nothing more than a tool for him. So I walked. I walked until my feet bled. I prayed for a place, for someone who'd see me as more than a burden." Her words hung in the night air, fragile and heavy all at once. I looked at her, and in her eyes, I saw the reflection of my own emptiness. I'd been living for the land, for survival, convincing myself it was enough. But now, faced with her, I realized how much I longed for more. Still, I shook my head slowly. "Clara, I don't take in strays. Life out here's hard, harsher than you can imagine. There's no promise of comfort. Only dust, sweat, and sometimes hunger." She looked straight at me then, and there was fire in her gaze. "I've already known hunger. I've already known pain. I'd rather face them with a man who's honest, than with someone who treats me like cattle." That silenced me. Her voice was not of weakness, it was of courage. She wasn't offering herself out of desperation alone, she was offering to stand beside someone, even in hardship. And in that moment, I realized she wasn't asking for pity. She was asking for a chance. For the first time in years, I felt my chest tighten with something more than solitude. Compassion. Hope. Maybe even the stirring of love. I went inside the cabin, brought out a blanket, and draped it around her shoulders. "You'll stay tonight," I said, my voice rough but softer than before. "Tomorrow, we'll see where the trail leads." The night passed with a quiet peace I hadn't felt in years. I gave her my bed, choosing to sit by the fire with my hat tipped low. Sleep came easy, not because I was comfortable, but because for once, the silence of the prairie wasn't empty, it was filled with the steady breath of another soul. Morning light spilled across the horizon, painting the plains gold. Clara stepped out of the cabin, her face gentler now, though still marked by the weight of her journey. Without a word, she gathered wood, stoked the fire, and prepared breakfast with a grace that turned the rough cabin into something resembling a home. As I watched her move, I realized something: she hadn't come begging for survival. She had come offering life that could soften these rugged plains, life that could turn a cabin into a hearth, and a lonely cowboy into a husband. Days turned to weeks. She stayed. At first, I thought I was letting her because she needed shelter. But soon, I understood I needed her just as much. Together, we mended fences, cooked meals, laughed at small things, and shared the silence without it feeling empty. The prairie hadn't changed, but my world had. One evening, as the sun dipped low and painted her face in amber light, Clara spoke softly. "When I came here, I thought I was just looking for a place to survive. But you gave me more than that. You gave me peace." I took her hand then, rough calloused fingers meeting her softer ones. For the first time in my life, I let the walls I had built around my heart fall. "Clara," I said, my voice trembling with the truth I had long buried, "you didn't just find peace here. You brought it to me." In that moment, I knew my life of solitude had ended. Not because I pitied her, not because she begged, but because two broken souls had found strength in each other. Her courage met my loneliness, and together, we built something worth holding on to. The prairie was still harsh, the work still endless, the nights still long. But now, when the fire burned low and the wind howled across the plains, I wasn't alone. And in that simple truth, I found the greatest treasure a cowboy could ever hope for.